The anime begins with the protagonist reflecting on the meaning of seeing. He was born without the ability to see, and his family has already accepted this reality. Even so, everyone asks him to keep trying and to be proud of himself, because they believe he has the eyes of a hero. Still, the boy continues to question himself, trying to understand why he cannot see like others do. Shortly afterward, Kunon is called by his teacher to begin his lessons. He is taken to the classroom by one of the mansion's maids. Kunon finds sword training somewhat complicated, but the maid comments that with magic he can accomplish impressive things. The boy starts thinking about how far he could go without someone's help, knowing that he cannot move around on his own or perform tasks without support. After some time, Kunon finally arrives at the room where his master is, the one responsible for teaching him how to use magic. During the lesson, the teacher asks what he is already capable of doing. Soon after, using his wand, Kunon casts a water spell, surprising the teacher by already mastering that type of magic. Curious, Kunon asks what size that water magic is. The teacher replies that it is about the size of an eyeball, but upon realizing what she said, she apologizes and promises to make it up to him. Kunon then realizes that he can see magical manifestations, which makes him extremely excited. He also begins to find it strange that he always eats without worrying about what he is consuming, finding everything very curious through touch. When he tastes lettuce, he thinks he is eating some kind of grass, until the maid explains that it is a vegetable called lettuce. Then she says that what covers the bread is butter. When he picks up another fruit, even before she says anything, Kunon recognizes that it is an apple. The maid notices that he has been trying many new things and showing a lot of curiosity. When he smells a strawberry, he notices that its scent is very strong. The maid gets a bit too excited and starts pressing different foods against his cheek so he can guess what they are. Kunon gets slightly annoyed, and she apologizes for getting carried away. Later, Kunon's teacher arrives at the library asking which book he would like to listen to that day. He asks for a work about the history of the Holy Knight of Hungary. The teacher is surprised by the sudden request, but the maid assures her that it is fine. She warns that if the content becomes too heavy, Kunon can ask to stop. The boy shows that he wants to learn many things and is becoming increasingly curious about the world. Then it is explained that long ago, a great war occurred involving heroes from many lands and the demon lord. The hero of that kingdom, Histoa Hunglia, managed to defeat the enemy, but lost an arm and a leg in the battle. After the war, some of that hero's descendants were born missing body parts, such as arms, legs, or even their sight. These children came to be seen as the reincarnation of the hero, bearing what are called the hero's scars. Kunon states that he is just himself and that he uses his own magic, managing to duplicate several spheres of water. To him, mastering magic means being able to see and feel the world. However, whenever he uses magic, he becomes extremely exhausted and ends up fainting. When taking him to his room, the maid asks whether all the affection she gives him is not enough. Kunon replies that it is more than enough and thanks her for always taking care of him. Even so, she comments that if love is not enough, the solution would be for them to sleep together. But Kunon says he does not need that right now. He acknowledges that he still does not have enough knowledge or physical strength to use more advanced magic. The maid believes he needs to eat better. After all, he is only 7 years old and needs to grow strong. Kunon feels that he is lagging behind other children and becomes frustrated for fainting while using basic magic. The maid asks him to take it slowly, respecting the limits of his own body. Kunon comments that he would like to develop muscles, but running or walking is very difficult for him. She then suggests training sword techniques, which excites the boy. Aiko decides to speak with Kunon's father to hire someone qualified. Before leaving, Kunon thanks her for the help. While Aiko gets excited thinking about a possible raise, Kunon only asks that she not make too much noise during his magic training. Aiko is happy and says that if she did not feel his presence, she would be crying that night. The next day, a fencing instructor is hired to train Kunon. During the training, Professor Jenny appears unexpectedly, and the instructor cheerfully comments on how quickly the day passed. Jenny notices that Kunon has started practicing swordsmanship, and he explains that to use magic, one needs knowledge and physical strength. Observing more closely, she realizes that Kunon has changed a lot since the last time she saw him. Before continuing, she asks if he wants to rest. But Kunon prefers to keep training to improve even more. So she decides to review the spell Aori, known as water magic. Kunon casts the spell, and everyone becomes excited when several water spheres appear. The teacher is shocked, as he reached that level almost on his own, even finding it frightening. The scene shifts to Mirika, Kunon's future wife. The maid informs her that the carriage has arrived and that she should go see him. Mirika comments that Kunon has always had an apathetic expression, but the maid reminds her that everything was decided by the royal family. During the journey, Mirika explains that Kunon bears the hero's scars, something important to the kingdom of Huglia, and that the political marriage is a royal duty. When they first met, she wanted to play with him and discover what he liked. But Kunon always seemed distant and sad, saying that he could not do anything on his own. Returning to the present, Mirika feels sad thinking that she would see that dejected face forever. However, upon arriving, she is greeted by Kunon with a smile, which confuses her. She wants to understand what changed, since he seems happier. Kunon explains that he has come to like her, surprising Mirika. When he shows his abilities, creating a rainbow above his head, she is enchanted. Kunon apologizes for having troubled her before, and she also apologizes. He asks her to listen to his stories, as he has experienced fun moments. Mirika falls even more in love upon seeing him so cheerful. On her way home, she feels radiant, considering it a wonderful day and looking forward to seeing him again. The scene returns to Kunon, who is surprised to realize that, for the first time in his life, he reached out his hand to someone. The maid celebrates, saying that this proves he is a true gentleman. The next day, Kunon asks the teacher to read more about chivalry, as he wishes to be worthy of Mirika. The final scene shows the teacher, aware that all of this is something impossible for her. She realizes that she can no longer maintain 7 water spheres at the same time, and soon understands that Kunon has evolved far too quickly. In a short time, there was little more she could teach him at that level, so she decides to move on to intermediate magic. Her initial plan had been to teach only basic magic to a child, something she had always wanted, since it required less effort and offered a good salary. Although useful, magic is never completely safe, and Kunon is still very young to deal with advanced techniques. Even so, the girl understands that it is too early to give up and decides to continue the job. After all, she also needs to support herself. The next day, she decides to teach Kunon how to put feelings into water. To demonstrate, she creates one icy sphere and another hot one, showing how this gives originality to the spell. To her, this ability defines a mage's individuality, and can even be seen as a clear difference in talent. Next, Kunon decides to try. He uses his magic and asks Aiko to taste it. When she does, she realizes it is plum juice. The teacher is shocked, because he accomplished in seconds something she had spent the entire night studying. She asks if it was difficult, and Kunon replies that it was not. At nightfall, he decides to test it with 2 apples, trying to better understand aroma. However, he encounters difficulties, since he cannot see colors. Without understanding them, he cannot cause magical changes or create eyes. Even so, he decides to continue, because he wants to see everything that exists in the world. At dawn, Kunon goes downstairs for breakfast and realizes that he can see colors using magic. Aiko is surprised, but he believes he still cannot see properly. The girl becomes irritated, so Kunon explains better. He sees colors through magic. He picks up a green apple and says it is red. Aiko realizes that, to him, colors are different, and that he still does not know their names. Kunon agrees, saying it is the first time he has ever seen these tones. Aiko then explains that the apple is light green. Kunon becomes even more confused, realizing that feeling something may be even harder to learn. Aiko asks how many apples are on the plate, and Kunon answers that there are 5, 3 red and 2 green. Aiko is fascinated by the boy's progress and can hardly wait to see what will come next. When she tells Kunon's father about this discovery, he is surprised to learn that his son can now distinguish colors. Aiko explains that the range of this effect is limited, but enough to differentiate shades, becoming clearer the closer he is, especially through touch. The father asks if Kunon can read, and Aiko replies that he can, since he identifies the color of the ink by running his finger over the letters. He still needs to learn reading itself, but he is already enchanted by books and illustrated guides. The man asks whether the boy would not like to return to the main house, as he did not want people to worry about him. Aiko thinks it is better not to, because Kunon is discovering many new things, and that could interfere with his goals. The next day, Kunon manages to create a red water sphere, but his family suddenly appears, and he drops the sphere on the ground. The liquid covers him in red, and his mother faints upon seeing the scene. The teacher observes everything and realizes that Kunon possesses an absurd amount of magic. She does not know how far he can go, but she believes he may reach the greatest title in the magical world, the Blue Mage. The scene shifts to the father talking with Kunon's brother, considering taking him to a noble school. He explains that Kunon has rarely left the mansion since birth and may be frightened by the world and unfamiliar people. Therefore, he asks the older son to take care of his brother. The boy remembers that before he could not protect him and feels afraid, but promises that this time he will do everything he can to help. He decides that, no matter the cost, he will be a true older brother. The scene returns to Kunon, who can now read several books, making everyone happy with his progress. The teacher arrives shortly after and notices the cheerful atmosphere. After teaching Kunon about knightly behavior, she remembers that Aiko also wanted him to have a sense of humor and wonders whether it was working. An elegant and amusing man suits Kunon, even if he seems a bit strange. Even so, she acknowledges that he is much better than before and far more adorable. At nightfall, Aiko decides to take him to meet his father. Before that, she asks Kunon to warm her a little with magic, and she feels better. Kunon asks if he did something wrong to be scolded, but Aiko says no, reminding him that he had already been warned when he created the blood sphere. Upon arriving at the main house, the butler welcomes them, and soon Kunon's brother appears to greet them. As they head to their father's room, the brother asks if Kunon needs help, but he replies that he does not, since he can feel everything around him. The brother becomes excited upon realizing how strong Kunon is becoming thanks to magic. In the presence of their parents, the father decides to speak seriously. He asks whether Kunon still does not wish to attend school. Kunon replies that he does not, because he thinks he would bother people and prefers to prioritize other things at the moment. The father says he wants his son to do what he thinks is best. Kunon asks if there will be any problem if he does not go. The father explains that all nobles are required to attend school, and that, technically, Kunon also belongs to an aristocratic school. Kunon asks if that is not enough, and the father explains that, due to the circumstances, the king granted special permission for him not to attend. Even so, he asks Kunon to think it over. The boy then asks only how he should spend his allowance. The father shows concern about Mirika and asks Kunon to take this more seriously. Nobles who do not fulfill their duties end up at a social disadvantage, and this could harm Princess Mirika's future. Faced with this, Kunon decides to go to the academy. At first, he finds it all a nuisance. The father explains that he does not need to study for years, only take the promotion exam. There are 5 tests, so it is enough to go 5 times to obtain the official diploma. The brother comments that he and Princess Mirika will graduate in the next exam and will end up together. If that is the decision, the mother will take care of the preparations. Before leaving, the father reminds him that other members of the royal family study there, and Kunon may end up meeting Mirika. The brother assures him that everything will be fine. The scene shifts to Kunon talking with Mirika, telling her that he will go to the academy for 5 days to take the exam. Mirika is very happy to be able to spend this time with her future husband. Kunon does not fully understand how school works, but he promises to do his best. He feels a bit uneasy, thinking that other people might be jealous of the princess. He soon senses a certain tension and wonders whether Mirika lacks popularity. Kunon considers buying a wand for self-defense. As he boards the carriage, he casts a spell to prevent it from shaking, since his father had commented that this caused back pain. The brother asks if Kunon is afraid of going to a distant place, but he replies that he is not, because he is much stronger now. Even so, he knows that he caused concern when he fell and got hurt in the past. For a long time, he carried the guilt for all of this within himself. Kunon then explains that everything is fine now. Before, he felt a constant desire to simply disappear. But that feeling is in the past. In the present, he is determined to live, no matter what happens. His brother clearly notices how much Kunon has changed. The boy states that even if all the humans in the world were to disappear, he would still intend to keep living, because he carries a strong desire to survive. Upon arriving at the academy, Kunon is welcomed by his beloved wife. Before entering completely, he lags behind a little and begins to feel the presence of many people around him, as well as hearing countless voices. He knows that if he were the Kunon of the past, he would probably have hesitated to take this step and enter the school. The scene then shifts to the teacher responsible for accompanying him. She remembers when she first met him, when he was still very young, and wonders whether she will be able to guide him properly during those 5 days. As she observes him closely, she realizes that Kunon has matured a great deal and is even walking ahead of her. Even so, she calls out to him and officially introduces herself as the school's teacher and the tutor who will be accompanying him. While they talk, some students appear, commenting among themselves about Kunon, saying that he is the only one to have received that blessing in 100 years. One of the boys shows irritation, while his friends think Kunon is nothing special. However, the jealousy truly surfaces when he sees Mirika at Kunon's side. Upon entering the classroom, the teacher asks whether Kunon already knows how the exam works. He replies that it consists of 5 days of tests. She confirms this, explaining that each test has a specific time limit. After completing the exams, Kunon manages to get everything right, leaving the teacher very satisfied. The scene shifts to Kunon walking through the school corridors until a boy appears and starts provoking him, saying that he does not believe Kunon really received his father's blessing. This boy is Lyle, Mirika's brother. Realizing that the situation could turn into a mess, Kunon decides to settle it once and for all. He uses the water around them to create the illusion that the prince has gotten wet, making it look as though he has urinated on his own clothes. People begin to laugh, and Lyle runs away in embarrassment. Kunon's brother panics at the scene, but Kunon is thinking of only one thing: eating a hamburger. The episode ends with Mirika's brother consumed by anger toward Kunon. And that brings the second episode to a close. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content.